Welcome to this episode of Horrific History and Hauntings. I'm Beth.
And I'm Ramey. We're your hosts, here to talk about the stories that the history books ignore.
From horrific epidemics and ghostly hauntings to the catastrophes and tragic events that have sickened humanity.
Indeed. Beth, I'm going to let you tell me all about the things that happened today in history, but first I need to, we agreed we should probably discuss an issue that we have noticed and somebody pointed out in one of our reviews. We do mispronounce things quite a lot here. I don't. Beth does. I'm just as bad if it's a word I don't recognize, which comes up very often in proper nouns because names are hard. Beth here is just bad at pronouncing everything. So at first, when we first started this, we did try to look up how to pronounce things. Problem with me.
I still do, but some of them I'll hear it. I'll use the one that it sounds it out for me.
Yes.
And I will still be like, what? And try to do it. And then I still mess up.
The thing, I've always been bad at names.
It's like the Elizabeth Bowtry episode. I got Elizabeth Bowtry. And yes, it is Bowtry. If you go listen to that, that's explained. But it's Elizabeth Bathory is how most people know it. But the other names included in that one, there was no possible way. I looked them up, listened to them, and there was no possible way I was able to pronounce them.
So we try to say apologies as soon as we make the mistake. And somebody pointed out in one of the reviews that I kind of laugh, or Beth giggles it's because I start to laugh. I'm laughing at her mistake, not the name. I don't mean to offend anyone, but I cannot stop that grin. We've tried to edit out things, but then it sounds like she's just talking with a big grin on her face for no reason.
Well,
afterwards.
And also some of the topics we talk about, we'll just give a random example. It would be like, and the woman got beat in the head. Ha 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 ha. That's what it would sound like when we're really not laughing at that.
Yeah, it's so we don't mean to offend, but I don't think there's any way we'll fix it because when we first started this, we tried, and it's just an issue we both have with names. I am very sorry, but I cannot fix it, and I don't think I'm able to keep from laughing at my sister when she makes mistakes.
It is a comedy podcast.
I understand. If I was listening to something like American History Tellers, and he started laughing every time he talked about an atrocity or made a mistake, we don't hear their mistakes. They don't make mistakes that I can hear. But if they did, and someone started laughing, it would draw you out of it. We're not him, and I cannot promise that it won't happen because it will.
Well,
there's no way I can promise it. But I wanted to say we've seen it. It's just not much we can personally do to fix it.
I know it's awkward when I pronounce them, but as the person that cannot pronounce them, I promise it is very awkward even for me.
And I laugh at her mistakes. I always do.
I mean, he's my brother. He gets the right to do that.
I do laugh when I watched a lot of history as a child. And as growing up, I still do until the History Channel became such a weird thing now. I learned a lot of these words that she only heard occasionally in school if she got lucky.
Yeah.
Like she had a problem saying Apache. She didn't even know what that was. And
yeah. So I'm still learning as I'm doing these myself, which helps me because I find it entertaining.
The only reason we laugh is because I laugh at her mistake and I try to correct it if I can. And I will say, I don't know, Beth, when it's something that I haven't immediately corrected her after. The reason I chuckle when I say I don't know, Beth, it's because if she makes a mistake, I immediately point it out. And if she has to ask me, that should be obvious to her. I don't know. I just love correcting her.
I do use the online resources, but like I said, sometimes even after hearing them, I still struggle. I'll work on slowing down and trying to improve it as best I can, but I am human and I make mistakes. I prefer to laugh at the mistakes rather than dwell on them. When it comes to the laughing part, like I said, it is a comedy podcast, and I really enjoy recording with my brother and laughing together. It's one of the few things that I look forward to, but I will try to do better, if at all possible, with the pronunciation.
We don't mean any offense. Yeah, so the next episode will be a short episode. It'll pop up in the middle of nowhere, and we'll talk about a few reviews we really do appreciate. And I mean, we appreciate the one where they complained. It's fine. We understand. We knew
she still gave us the 3 stars.
We knew somebody would complain about it. We accepted that.
I mean, at least she didn't give us a 1 star or a 2 star.
People reached out on TikTok and all that. We're happy to hear from you. The positive stuff is great. And any interaction at all is nice to know that somebody listened to at least one episode, enough to get annoyed.
But getting into it, we're actually going to be doing a Hauntings and Legends Across America. But before we do, we have a 2-day in history.
What happened today in history?
September 2nd, the day that we are recording, in 1666, the Great Fire of London started in the house of King Charles II's baker on Pudding Lane.
I love that name.
By the time the fire was extinguished on September 6th, over 4/5 of London was destroyed, though only 16 people died. London in 1666 was vulnerable to fire with its wooden houses, narrow streets, and poor firefighting skills. The fire began when the king's baker, Thomas failed to properly extinguish his oven. Sparks ignited nearby firewood, setting his house ablaze. He escaped, but one of his assistants became the first victim. Sparks from the bakery ignited straw in the stables of the Star Inn across the street, then spread to Thames Street, Thames. Then it spread to warehouses packed with flammable materials. They caught fire or exploded, and this turned the blaze uncontrollable. Locals realized their efforts were hopeless, and they abandoned firefighting to evacuate their families and save their valuables. It had also been a hot, dry summer, and the strong winds helped to fuel the flames. As the fire spread, city authorities tried to create fire breaks by tearing down buildings, but the flames were too fast. The fire's light was visible 30 miles away. On September 5th, the fire began to die down, and by September 6th, it was under control. That evening, flames erupted again in the Temple District, but a gunpowder explosion extinguished them. Isn't that odd? I found that odd. The Great Fire of London destroyed 13,000 houses, nearly 90 churches, and many public buildings, including the old St. Paul's Cathedral. Around 100,000 people were left homeless. King Charles II quickly began rebuilding the city, and to prevent future fires, new buildings were constructed with brick and stone. They were separated by thicker walls, and wider streets replaced the narrow alleyways. However, permanent fire departments didn't appear in London until the 18th century.
Seems like it should have been a little bit more of a priority.
Yeah. Now we get to start with hauntings and legends across America. In New Mexico, Dawson Cemetery. It's located in the small ghost town of Dawson, New Mexico. It is the final resting place for hundreds. Their spirits are said to haunt not only the cemetery grounds, but also the town. The cemetery is about all that's left in Dawson. Many of the plots are overgrown with grass and weeds. It was once a booming mining town, with coal mines bringing wealth and a population that reached around 9,000 at its peak. Dawson enjoyed a period of prosperity for a while, but the town's fortune took a dark turn when 2 catastrophic mining explosions resulted in the deaths of hundreds of men.
That does sound like a cursed place.
On October 22nd, 1913, disaster struck when a mine explosion claimed the lives of 253 men. 2 more lives were lost during the rescue efforts to save trapped miners. A little under a decade later, on February 8th, 1923, there was another mine explosion, and it caused the lives of 123 more men to be lost.
How long did this place stay open?
Well, I mean, it did say it was a ghost town now.
Okay.
And that the cemetery is about all that's left. And it's overgrown. Visitors to the Dawson Cemetery reported a wide range of strange experiences, believed to be caused by the hundreds of miners who were buried there. They've reported lights moving around the cemetery that resemble headlamps from miners' helmets. They've heard low voices, moans, and laughter as well. Some have even reported seeing ghostly figures walking among the gravestones, only to vanish when they're approached.
I'd like to visit a ghost town with actual ghosts. I've been through some mining ghost towns up near Buchanan County, but I think it's up in West Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Next is New York, Sleepy Hollow.
Oh, we all have heard of that. Well, if you have
I hope.
a good childhood like us, you've heard of it.
You need to watch it if not.
I took that to 6th grade to watch because they asked us to. And I said there's no curse words. And I don't think there are. But the one with Johnny Depp. And they actually watched it. The teacher was like, oh my, when there was some heads flying. But other than that, we sit there in 6th grade and watched that.
I think as a 6th grader, Sleepy Hollow is good.
That's the same year we had the flood and had to evacuate the school.
Sleepy Hollow is a charming town in Westchester County, New York. It was originally known as Tarrytown, but it adopted its current name thanks to Washington Irving's The Legend of Sleepy Hollow. While the Headless Horseman is undoubtedly the most known ghost associated with Sleepy Hollow, many other spirits are said to still linger in the town. Major John Andre was a British officer who was hanged as a spy during the Revolutionary War. He conspired with American General Benedict Arnold to surrender West Point to the British. He was then hanged near the present-day Patriots Park. Legend has it that Andre's restless spirit still haunts Sleepy Hollow. On autumn evenings, particularly around October, around the time he was executed, locals claim to hear the ghostly echo of his horse's hooves galloping. The sound stops at the exact spot where he was captured. And if you look up the pictures, it's an adorable town, especially when they have it decorated for fall.
I'd say it is. I'd also say they really make the most of that legend.
Yeah. Another ghost story from Sleepy Hollow is that of the Wailing Woman of Raven Rock. This was documented by author Edgar Mayhew Bacon.
I thought you were going to say Allan Poe.
No, not Edgar Allan Poe, Edgar Mayhew Bacon in Chronicles of Tarrytown and Sleepy Hollow. According to Bacon, the woman was disoriented by a blinding snowstorm and she strayed from her path. She sought refuge in the ravine beneath Raven Rock where the drifting snow covered her, which caused her tragic death. Ever since that night, her spirit is said to appear near Raven Rock. Her mournful cries are said to sound like howling wind, while her gestures resemble the swirling snowdrifts. I can just see her howling, woo, with these strange, swirling, dancing hand gestures.
I'm the dancing haunt.
I would probably stay away from her too.
Yeah.
This is believed to warn others to avoid the path that caused her untimely demise.
Start screaming, it's the middle of summer.
Oh, well, it could be too hot.
Lately, yeah.
There are also a few taverns that are said to be haunted in Sleepy Hollow as well. One is the Setback Inn on Main Street.
I like that name.
It opened in 1959, but it's believed to have been a tavern since the mid-1800s. A bartender reported seeing a ghost late one night, and she described it as a dark-haired man in jeans and a t-shirt.
How generic.
Yeah.
I mean, there was no white dress or gray dress or
No.
blue dress.
Nope.
There
It was
no
jeans and a t-shirt.
Revolutionary or Civil War outfit. We have our first modern incident in a really old building. It's refreshing.
Next up is North Carolina, the Great Dismal Swamp.
Oh, I've heard of that.
I want to go. The Great Dismal Swamp is a vast wetland spanning northeastern North Carolina and southern Virginia. Its rich history dates back to when Native Americans called it home. Among the early figures captivated by the Great Dismal Swamp was George Washington. He envisioned transforming the swamp into fertile farmland and became a major investor in the Dismal Swamp Company. When draining the swamp proved impossible, the company shifted its focus to harvesting timber.
Well, if you got that name, you might as well find something to do with it.
Yeah. Great Dismal Swamp Canal connecting the Chesapeake Bay and Albemarle Sound was dug entirely by hand. This labor was performed by enslaved African Americans as well as Native Americans.
Enslaved ones?
They were forced to work in the harsh conditions
Oh, I was wondering.
to facilitate trade between the two bodies of water. And yes, I believe both were enslaved.
That's one of those things we didn't learn a whole lot about, if that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
Or any about.
It still stands as the oldest still operating man-made canal in America. Before slavery was abolished, the Great Dismal Swamp provided refuge for maroon communities. These communities, formed by enslaved people who had escaped captivity, emerged shortly after the introduction of slavery to the colonies. The swamp's dense vegetation and remote location offered a degree of protection from recapture, and alligators probably helped people not want to go there.
Nobody wanted to be there, but some had to be, unfortunately.
Yeah. There was a quote, I don't remember exactly what the quote was, but pretty much this one person said he felt safer with the alligators than with the white man. So I would actually trust an alligator more than any man.
At least you know what probably will happen with an alligator.
Due to its strategic location as a hub for trade and transportation, the swamp also played a crucial role in the Underground Railroad. It served as one of the few known water-based stops, providing a temporary sanctuary for enslaved African Americans seeking freedom. The Great Dismal Swamp is beautiful, but it's dangerous. Its labyrinth of waterways and islands can easily disorient people, and its waters conceal treacherous depths and dangerous creatures.
Oh.
Like the alligators. Over the years, many have become lost in the murky depths. There are tales of ghostly lights dancing through the trees and reports of phantom figures that appear. And it's said these phantom figures are dressed in everything from colonial-era clothing to early 20th century lumberman.
Wow, that's awful fancy for swamp gas.
Hunters speak of shooting game only to find the animal vanished without a trace, not even leaving behind a trail of blood. There's also a legend of a mysterious graveyard that moves around, and it's said to only appear to those who have lost their way within the swamp.
You'll be here soon. Bye-bye.
Traveling to North Dakota, Minniwashitu That's the one. That's what we're calling. That's actually how it was pronounced when I looked it up. The indigenous Mandan people feared a beast known as the Miniwashitu. The Missouri River was essential for the agriculture Mandan people. And yes, it turns out Missouri River actually does flow through North Dakota. I looked it up.
It's a big river, Beth.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know that.
The Mississippi River goes north of Mississippi.
Well, I knew that, but I didn't know about Missouri River.
Those rivers, they better respect those state boundaries.
It provided trade and vital resources. Winter months were probably challenging, though, as the river froze and it would put a pause on the trade. The return of warmer weather and the sound of groaning and cracking ice should have signaled relief. However, before the river could flow freely again, the Mandan people believed they had to endure the appearance of the Miniwashitu water monster.
What was that? What did it look like?
It was described as having a buffalo-like coat of red hair, and it stood 8 feet tall. It possessed a single eye in the center of its forehead with one horn above the eye, kind of like a fluffy rhinoceros. When I looked up the picture is what I thought.
Oh, cool.
Its backbone had jagged spikes like a saw.
To get through the ice.
It had hands like a human and feet like elk. Strange creature.
Was it bad or was it just benign?
We'll get into it. I don't know how you would describe it.
Or was it just like a beast? It just acted
It was a beast,
unpredictably.
apparently.
Okay.
The Miniwashitu approach was said to come in with a roaring sound as it ascended down the Missouri River, and its backbone shattered the frozen surface. At night, the monster appeared as a fiery red streak cutting through ice. However, if encountered in daylight, it was believed to be a deadly omen.
Oh, I would just avoid the river.
It is believed that seeing the Miniwashitu water monster would cause the person who looked upon it to go insane, followed by a painful death within just a few days.
No wonder they went insane. I'd get a little upset about that too.
And this probably explains why there aren't many reports of sightings.
Everybody just died.
One person reported seeing the Miniwashitu. It was just, that's how we got the description of what it looked like. And he was walking along the river. He said he seen the creature stand up out of the water, revealing the physical characteristics. And he claimed his vision blurred and eventually went completely dark shortly after the encounter. Despite his blindness, he managed to return home and tell others about his experience. Those who heard his tale noted that the man began to go mad and then died a few days later. I wonder if there's some fungus or something in the river.
I do not know.
Because remember the ABC of death? There was some sort of algae or fungus or something that was in a river, and people nearby started getting short-term memory loss, I believe.
You know, that does sound like something that could cause these weird behaviors. We have to rationalize everything, don't we? Well, I much prefer the hippo thing.
The Miniwashitu, despite its reputation for inducing madness in those who see it, has never been reported to physically harm anyone.
Why would it need to?
Oh, true.
It kind of just floats on down the river and waits for you to go away.
Yes. Some believe it prefers to a diet of fish and plants.
I try to be nice, but nobody wants to look at me.
Oh.
It's sad.
It's thought to hibernate during the winter and then during the spring come out to move up the Missouri River, breaking the ice as it goes along.
Well, at least it serves a purpose. Just don't look at it when it happens.
Yeah. How are you not? I guess maybe a glance, see red streak, and like, oh no, don't look.
There's a life lesson to be taken from this. Do not get near a dangerous, unpredictable, cracked, iced river.
I'm probably not going to be out and about in the cold anyway.
I don't think they have much choice a lot of times.
That's all I have for this episode.
Oh, well, that was short and quick. If you like what you heard here, we have all kinds of other stuff to do, or that we've done. We are part of the Gruesome Gaming Group Podcast Network. There's this podcast. There's Brother Knows Quest, where I tell Beth here about different tabletop role-playing games like D&D each week. And then we have Leveling Duo that comes out much more rarely, and it's all about video games. Stuff me and Beth and me and my friend Dakota have played and really like to talk about. They're kind of rare that we come out with a new episode because we don't play new great video games all the time. In the description, there'll be a link to the link tree that'll have our main podcast website. It'll have all 3 of the podcasts we have. You can follow us through that. And then there'll be other socials and YouTube. If you want to keep up with what we're doing and anything we're asking or have to announce, it'll be on X mostly and on YouTube. I make posts there all the time, as well as you can listen to the shows on YouTube. Again, thank you for the reviews. Keep leaving those wherever you can. Pocket Cast has announced that they let you leave reviews now. So if you use Pocket Cast and want to leave us a little review or just give us some stars, we appreciate it. Don't have to be good ones. Just let us know what the problem is. We'll address it or apologize for not being able to address it, as we have found out. Below the Linktree link, there's emails. You can email me or Beth. Just either one of them you want to email. There's 2 emails. And there is also a link to a tip page if you want to send us a little tip or anything like that. You can leave a message as well when you do that. But if you want to do it for free, the socials are there and the email is there. But if you want to leave a tip, there's an option. It uses Stripe, so it's secure. And I guess that's it. Thank you for listening. I have been Ramey.
And I'm Beth.
And this has been HH&H. Bye-bye.